On Friday morning, Sam Altman was one of the most powerful people in technology. By the afternoon, he had been fired from OpenAI. No warning, no long public explanation, no dramatic press conference. Just a short announcement posted online that sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Employees stared at their phones in disbelief. Investors started calling each other immediately. Microsoft executives reportedly rushed into emergency meetings. And somewhere inside OpenAI's headquarters, people were trying to understand how the face of the artificial intelligence revolution had suddenly become an outsider in his own company. But the strangest part hadn't happened yet, because over the next few days, the situation would become so chaotic, emotional, and unpredictable that even longtime tech veterans admitted they had never seen anything like it before. For one surreal weekend, the future of artificial intelligence looked less like a business story and more like a political coup happening in real time. At that point, OpenAI was no longer just another startup. ChatGPT had exploded across the world with terrifying speed. Students were using it to write essays. Programmers used it to generate code. Office workers quietly relied on it for emails and presentations. Some people used it for therapy-like conversations late at night when they couldn't sleep. Others feared it might destroy entire industries before governments even understood what was happening. Artificial intelligence had suddenly become personal. And right at the center of that global transformation stood Sam Altman. His face was everywhere by then. Conferences, podcasts, government hearings, magazine covers, calm voice, controlled expressions. He spoke carefully about the future, sometimes sounding optimistic, other times sounding quietly concerned by the technology his company was helping unleash into the world. But while the public saw confidence, tension inside OpenAI had already started building. And maybe that's what makes this story so fascinating, because the collapse didn't begin with failure. It began at the exact moment OpenAI was becoming one of the most important companies on Earth. To understand why everything exploded so suddenly, you have to go back long before ChatGPT changed the internet, back before AI became mainstream, back before governments panicked about regulation, back before ordinary people started wondering whether machines might eventually replace them, back when artificial intelligence still felt distant and slightly unreal. In 2015, OpenAI was founded by a group of powerful figures from Silicon Valley, including Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, Ilya Sutskever, and several others deeply connected to the future of technology. At the time, the organization presented itself almost like a mission-driven research lab. Its goal sounded enormous and strangely idealistic: create artificial intelligence that would benefit humanity instead of concentrating power inside a few giant corporations. That idea mattered more than people realized back then, because even in 2015, many researchers already understood that advanced AI could eventually reshape almost everything: work, education, warfare, economics, media, human relationships, even political power itself. And behind all those possibilities was one uncomfortable fear. What happens if humanity creates something more intelligent than humanity? At first, OpenAI operated more like a research-focused nonprofit than a traditional company. The atmosphere reportedly felt academic, experimental, almost philosophical at times. Researchers debated ethics and long-term consequences as much as product launches. But idealism becomes complicated when technology starts requiring billions of dollars. Training advanced AI models is incredibly expensive. Massive computing infrastructure, elite engineers, specialized chips, endless energy consumption. Over time, OpenAI faced growing pressure from competitors like Google, Meta, and later Anthropic, and slowly, the organization began changing. In 2019, OpenAI introduced a controversial capped profit structure that allowed outside investment while still claiming to protect its broader mission. Critics immediately became suspicious. Some believed the company was slowly abandoning its original ideals. Others argued there was simply no other way to compete in the AI race. Meanwhile, Sam Altman was becoming increasingly influential inside Silicon Valley. Before OpenAI, Altman had already built a strong reputation through Y Combinator, one of the most powerful startup accelerators in the world. Companies like Airbnb, Dropbox, Reddit, and Stripe all passed through its ecosystem. Altman wasn't known for loud charisma like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. His style felt quieter, more analytical, sometimes even unsettlingly calm. People who worked with him often described someone intensely focused, highly strategic, and unusually good at understanding long-term technological trends. He didn't speak like a typical salesman. He often sounded more like someone mentally living 10 years ahead of everyone else. And maybe that became one of his greatest strengths during the AI boom. Because when ChatGPT launched publicly in late 2022, the world changed almost overnight. Even inside OpenAI, some employees reportedly didn't expect such explosive adoption. Millions of users flooded the platform within days, then tens of millions. Suddenly, artificial intelligence wasn't a niche research topic anymore. It became part of ordinary life with frightening speed. Teachers worried students would stop writing. Artists feared losing work. Journalists started discussing misinformation and deepfakes. Programmers wondered whether AI might eventually replace parts of their profession. At dinner tables around the world, people started asking the same question. Is this technology helping us or quietly replacing us? And while fear spread across industries, OpenAI became one of the most powerful organizations in the world, almost by accident. That kind of sudden influence changes people psychologically. Inside the company, pressure intensified rapidly. Employees worked exhausting hours. Competition accelerated. Governments demanded answers. Journalists hunted for information constantly. Investors saw unimaginable commercial opportunities. But beneath all the excitement, another conflict was quietly growing inside OpenAI itself. A philosophical conflict. How fast should artificial intelligence move forward? Some people inside OpenAI believed accelerating quickly was necessary. If OpenAI slowed down, competitors might dominate the industry instead. Others feared the opposite. They worried humanity was moving too fast without understanding the long-term consequences. And somewhere inside that growing tension stood Ilya Sutskever. Sutskever wasn't simply another executive. He was one of the most respected AI researchers in the world. Quiet, brilliant, deeply focused on the science itself. Many people viewed him almost as the intellectual heart of OpenAI. Over time, reports suggested increasing disagreements between leadership groups inside the company, not necessarily screaming arguments or personal hatred. The conflict seemed more ideological than emotional, at least at first, because as OpenAI grew more commercially successful, the stakes became enormous. Billions of dollars, global influence, control over transformative technology, and enormous stakes often change human behavior in subtle ways. People become more cautious, more political, more fearful of losing influence, more convinced their side understands the future correctly. Then came one of the first truly unsettling moments inside OpenAI. According to multiple reports later published, Some employees had allegedly become increasingly alarmed about the speed of development happening internally. Rumors spread about powerful, unreleased systems and private discussions around potential long-term AI risks. At one point, researchers reportedly warned internally about capabilities advancing faster than expected. Nobody outside the company fully understood what those conversations involved, which only made the atmosphere feel more mysterious. Because when the people building the technology start sounding nervous themselves, public anxiety intensifies immediately. Around this same period, another psychological shift was happening across Silicon Valley. AI stopped feeling like a normal tech competition and started feeling more like an arms race. Executives feared falling behind. Engineers jumped between companies for enormous salaries. Investors poured billions into anything connected to artificial intelligence. Inside private meetings, people reportedly discussed AGI, artificial general intelligence, almost like something historic was approaching faster than expected. Some researchers sounded excited, others sounded genuinely afraid. Former OpenAI employees later described an atmosphere that could feel almost surreal at times. Long hours, extreme secrecy, constant pressure. The feeling that history was accelerating faster than human beings could emotionally process it. And maybe that's part of why the crisis eventually exploded so violently, because underneath all the technical discussions sat something deeply human. Fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing influence. Fear of building something nobody fully understood anymore. The public couldn't see most of this tension yet. From the outside, OpenAI still looked unstoppable. Sam Altman traveled constantly during this period. He met world leaders, testified before governments, appeared in interviews discussing AI safety while simultaneously pushing OpenAI forward aggressively. And that contradiction fascinated people. How could someone warn the world about AI risks while racing to build even more powerful systems? Some critics accused OpenAI of hypocrisy. Others argued this was simply the reality of competition. But inside OpenAI, the emotional pressure kept building. Then came November 2023. The decision happened so suddenly that even people close to the company seemed shocked. The OpenAI board announced that Sam Altman would leave the company because they no longer trusted him to lead effectively. The statement was short and strangely vague. It mentioned communication issues, but provided very few details. Almost immediately, confusion exploded across Silicon Valley. Employees reportedly learned the news around the same time as the public. Some stared silently at Slack messages, trying to understand whether the announcement was even real. Investors reportedly panicked. Microsoft executives, despite investing billions into OpenAI, appeared blindsided. And online, rumors spread everywhere. Had Altman hidden dangerous AI developments? Was this about money, power, safety concerns, personal conflict? Nobody seemed to know. That uncertainty made the situation feel even stranger, because when people don't understand a crisis, imagination fills the empty space. For hours, social media turned into chaos. Tech founders posted cryptic messages. Journalists rushed to verify rumors. AI researchers privately speculated about deeper conflicts inside the company. And meanwhile, Sam Altman himself stayed surprisingly composed publicly. Then came one of the most symbolic moments in the entire story. Photographers captured Altman returning to OpenAI headquarters after being fired. But this time, he reportedly wore a temporary visitor badge around his neck. The image spread across the internet instantly. Imagine spending years building one of the world's most important technology companies, then walking back into the building as a guest. That single image felt strangely cinematic. humiliating, surreal, human. But while the public focused on the symbolism, something much more dangerous was happening behind the scenes. OpenAI employees started revolting, not quietly either. Hundreds of workers signed internal letters demanding Altman's return. Some reportedly threatened to resign. Others prepared to follow him to Microsoft after Microsoft announced Altman would lead a new advanced AI team there. Then came another extraordinary moment that turned the crisis into complete chaos. Nearly the entire company appeared ready to walk out. Imagine that for a second. One of the most important AI organizations on Earth suddenly standing on the edge of internal collapse because employees no longer trusted the people controlling the board. Some reports suggested Microsoft was already preparing office space for massive numbers of OpenAI employees if the company imploded completely. Silicon Valley veterans watched the situation unfold almost in disbelief, because this wasn't supposed to happen to companies leading the future. These organizations were supposed to look unstoppable, controlled, brilliant. Instead, OpenAI suddenly looked emotional, fragile, human. Suddenly, the crisis transformed from a leadership dispute into something far bigger, a loyalty war. And psychologically, that changed everything. Because companies can survive executive disagreements, they struggle to survive internal collapse. Employees weren't merely defending a manager. Many genuinely believed Sam Altman represented OpenAI's future itself. To them, removing him felt like destabilizing the company during the most important moment in AI history. Meanwhile, the board appeared increasingly isolated. Hour by hour, pressure intensified. Reporters gathered outside headquarters. Social media dissected every rumor. Investors called emergency meetings. Employees privately debated whether OpenAI might collapse completely. And somewhere beneath all the chaos sat a terrifying possibility. What if the company leading the AI revolution suddenly destroyed itself from the inside? The situation became almost absurdly chaotic. Negotiations reportedly changed direction constantly. One moment, Altman seemed close to returning. The next moment, talks reportedly collapsed again. Interim CEOs appeared and disappeared rapidly. Even experienced Silicon Valley executives admitted the situation felt unstable and bizarre. For ordinary people watching online, the entire story started feeling less like corporate news and more like watching history happen in real time, because by then, artificial intelligence no longer felt theoretical. People understood that whoever controlled OpenAI might influence the future of search engines, education, creative work, software, business, media, possibly even human communication itself. And suddenly, that organization looked fragile. Eventually, the pressure became overwhelming. Sam Altman returned. The board changed. Leadership shifted. Employees celebrated publicly. Microsoft strengthened its partnership with OpenAI even further. And somehow, after being fired only days earlier, Altman emerged arguably more powerful than before. That reversal shocked Silicon Valley. Normally, when boards remove CEOs, the story ends quietly. Executives disappear. Companies move on. But this situation followed different rules, because Sam Altman had accumulated something more powerful than formal authority: momentum, belief, symbolic influence. Employees believed in his vision. Investors believed in his strategy. Partners believed he represented the future of AI itself. And once enough people emotionally attach themselves to a leader's vision, removing that leader becomes incredibly difficult. But even after Altman's return, one uncomfortable question never fully disappeared. What if the board's fears weren't completely irrational? That question still quietly follows OpenAI today, because even many AI researchers openly admit they don't fully understand where this technology may lead long-term. Some fear mass job disruption, others fear misinformation at unimaginable scale. Some worry about autonomous systems becoming increasingly difficult to control. Others fear concentration of power inside a few companies controlling the future of intelligence itself. And inside OpenAI, those tensions likely never vanished completely. The company continued growing rapidly after the crisis. New AI systems became more advanced. Competition intensified with Google, Anthropic, Meta, and other companies racing aggressively toward the same future. But psychologically, something had changed after November 2023. The firing exposed how emotionally unstable the AI race really was beneath the surface. From the outside, technology companies often look calm and controlled. Product launches, carefully rehearsed interviews, perfect presentations with confident executives explaining the future. But behind those polished moments are still human beings dealing with ambition, fear, exhaustion, ideology, ego, uncertainty, and pressure. And artificial intelligence intensified all of it. Because unlike previous technology races, this one feels existential to many people involved. The leaders inside AI companies genuinely believe they may be shaping the future of civilization itself. That kind of pressure changes people. It changes organizations too. People become more secretive, more ideological, more convinced their decisions carry historic importance. And maybe that's why the OpenAI story fascinated millions of people so deeply. It wasn't just about a CEO getting fired. It felt like watching humanity argue with itself about the future. Should progress move faster? Should it slow down? Can powerful technology ever remain fully controlled? And who gets to decide those answers? Those questions are no longer science fiction anymore. They're happening right now. Today, OpenAI remains one of the most influential companies on Earth. AI systems continue evolving rapidly. Governments still struggle to regulate them. Entire industries quietly prepare for transformation. And somewhere inside all that acceleration remains the memory of those strange few days when the company leading the AI revolution nearly collapsed from internal conflict. Not because the technology failed, not because of bankruptcy, not because of hackers, but because human beings disagreed about how dangerous their own creation might become. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of the story. When people imagine the future risks of artificial intelligence, they often picture machines becoming uncontrollable someday. But the OpenAI crisis revealed something different first. The earliest instability may come from humans, long before it comes from the machines themselves. Humans competing, humans fearing, humans rushing toward the future, while privately wondering whether they truly understand what they're building. And for one extraordinary week in 2023, the world suddenly got a rare glimpse behind the curtain of the AI revolution. Not polished, not controlled, not futuristic, just deeply human.
Thank you so much for listening to this audiobook. I truly hope these words inspired you, motivated you, and gave you something valuable to take with you into everyday life. If you enjoyed this recording, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and explore my other inspiring audiobooks created to support your growth, mindset, and motivation. Your support means a lot and helps me create more content for listeners like you. See you in the next audiobook.